Hey everyone, welcome back to KnowledgeCast English. This is the place where we talk about real life topics in simple, natural English so you can learn something new and improve your speaking and listening at the same time. Today's topic is one that's so important but often ignored in schools: real sex education. Not just biology or body parts, but things like feelings, respect, consent, and how to build healthy relationships. And to help us understand this topic better, we have a special guest with us today, a counselor and doctor who has spent years working with teenagers and young adults. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really like what you're doing with this podcast, teaching English while also discussing real and meaningful topics. It's such a great idea.
Thank you. I'm really happy you're here. You know, every time we say the words sex education, people get a little shy or uncomfortable. Why do you think this topic is still such a taboo, even now?
That's a good question. I think the biggest reason is that in many cultures, people grow up believing that talking about sex or even mentioning it is wrong or shameful. Parents don't talk about it, schools only cover the science part, and young people are left to learn from the internet, which often gives the wrong information. Many schools only focus on the biology. This is how reproduction happens. But they skip the emotional part: how to deal with feelings, what healthy relationships look like, and what consent means.
Yes, exactly. I remember when I was in school, we only had one short class about it. And honestly, it was just pictures of body parts on a chart. No one talked about real life things like boundaries, emotions, or respect. You just mentioned consent, which I think is one of the most important words people need to understand. Can you explain what consent means in simple English?
Of course, the word consent simply means permission, saying yes or agreeing to something. When we talk about consent in relationships, it means both people clearly and willingly agree to what's happening. There's no pressure, no confusion, and no fear. And remember, consent is not just one moment, it's continuous. So if someone says yes at first but then changes their mind later, that's okay, and the other person must stop immediately. So we can say, consent means a clear, enthusiastic, and ongoing yes.
That's a perfect explanation. And you know, consent isn't just about romantic relationships. It starts in small, everyday moments, right? Like even a child learning that it's okay to say no if they don't want a hug.
Exactly. Smiles. That's where it begins. Learning that your body belongs to you. Consent is about boundaries. Everyone has the right to decide what feels comfortable for them. When we teach this early, children grow up understanding respect, both for themselves and for others.
That's such a strong point. And I think many people misunderstand sex education. They think it's just about sex itself, but it's also about understanding yourself and your emotions. Let's talk about that. What should real sex education actually include?
Good question. I usually say that real sex education should include 5 main parts. Understanding your body, how it changes and grows. Emotional awareness, understanding attraction, feelings, and relationships. Consent and respect, how to treat others and set boundaries. Health and safety, learning about hygiene, protection, and preventing infections. Communication skills, being able to talk openly about difficult topics. When all 5 come together, people become more confident, informed, and respectful in their decisions.
That's a great structure. Let's go one by one so our listeners can understand each point clearly. Let's start with the first one: understanding your body. Many young people go through puberty without really knowing what's happening. Could you explain what puberty is in simple words?
Sure, Smiles. Puberty is the stage when your body starts to change from a child's body into an adult's body. It usually happens somewhere between the ages of 9 and 16, though it's different for everyone. During puberty, you grow taller, your body shape changes, your voice might become deeper, and you start to notice hair growing in new places. And here's something people forget. Puberty also affects your emotions. You might feel moody, sensitive, or suddenly curious about relationships. That's completely normal.
Yes, I totally remember that. When I was a teenager, I felt so confused. I thought something was wrong with me because I didn't understand those emotional ups and downs.
That's such a common feeling. Everyone thinks they're the only one, but really, everyone goes through it. It's important to know that everyone's body has its own timeline. Some people grow faster, others slower, and that's perfectly okay. Comparing your body to your friends only makes you feel stressed.
That's really good advice. Your body, your timeline. I love that. Now, let's move to the second part, emotional awareness. This is something schools almost never talk about. Why is it important to include emotions when we talk about sex education?
Because emotions guide our decisions. If we don't understand them, we can make choices that hurt us or others. Emotional awareness means understanding what you feel and why you feel it. It's being able to ask questions like, do I really like this person or do I just like the attention? Am I comfortable with what's happening? Is this relationship healthy and respectful? When we learn to check in with our emotions, we make better decisions and we build healthier connections.
That's so true. And honestly, it's not just for teenagers. Even adults need to learn emotional awareness.
Absolutely. Emotional intelligence is a life skill. It helps in friendships, family relationships, even at work. If you know how to express your emotions calmly and listen to others, you can avoid so many misunderstandings.
So true. Now let's talk about myths, because there are so many myths around sex education. What are some of the most common ones you've heard from your students or patients?
Oh, there are a lot. Let's talk about a few important ones. Myth 1. Everyone is doing it. That's not true. People often talk about it, but many are not actually doing anything. Don't let peer pressure make you feel behind or different.
Myth 2. Talking about sex will make young people start earlier.
Completely false. Studies show that people who get real sex education actually wait longer and make safer, more responsible choices.
Myth 3. You can't talk to your parents about it.
You actually can. Parents might feel shy, but most of them care deeply and want you to be safe. You can start small by asking a simple question or sharing something you learned.
That's amazing. So the truth is, knowledge doesn't push people to make bad choices. It helps them make better ones.
Exactly. Knowledge is not dangerous. Ignorance is. When people understand their bodies and emotions, they can take care of themselves and others.
Now let's move to the next part, health and safety. A lot of people get nervous when they hear terms like STDs or STIs. Could you explain those in simple English for our learners?
Of course. STD stands for sexually transmitted disease, and STI means sexually transmitted infection. These are infections that can spread through sexual contact. But here's what many people don't know. Not all STIs are serious or permanent. Some are easily treatable if you see a doctor early.
The best way to prevent them is through awareness and protection. That means understanding your body, using protection like condoms, and being honest with your partner. And getting regular health checkups is important too, even when you feel fine.
That's great advice. And I like how you said it, calmly and clearly, because that's how these conversations should be.
Exactly. Talking about health should never be awkward. Our body is part of who we are. There's no reason to feel shame about keeping it healthy.
If we treat sexual health like any other part of health, like eating well or exercising, the fear disappears.
That's such a positive way to see it. Now, the next part you mentioned earlier was communication skills. I feel like this is something most people don't connect with sex education, but it's actually at the heart of everything, right?
Yes, communication is the foundation of all healthy relationships, romantic, family, or friendship. Here's some simple advice I give to young people. Be honest, but kind. If something makes you uncomfortable, say it clearly, but gently. For example, I feel uncomfortable when, instead of blaming the other person. Listen carefully. Communication isn't only talking, it's listening too. Respect differences. People can think differently and still care about each other. Good communication creates trust, and trust keeps relationships healthy.
That's wonderful advice. You know, sometimes I think sex education should actually be called respect and relationship education.
I agree completely, because that's what it really is, learning how to respect yourself and others. Real sex education is not about doing anything. It's about understanding your body, your emotions, and your choices.
That's so true. Let's also talk about parents in schools. Many parents feel uncomfortable talking to their kids about these topics. what would you say to them?
I'd tell them you don't need to have all the answers. Start small. You can begin by naming body parts correctly, teaching kids that they can say no when they're uncomfortable, or talking about respect in relationships. And if you don't know something, it's okay to learn together. That actually builds more trust.
That's so encouraging. And for schools, what changes would you like to see in how sex education is taught?
Schools should make it open, honest, and inclusive. Instead of one short lecture, make it an ongoing conversation. Include topics like consent, respect, emotions, diversity, and self-worth. And most importantly, create a safe space for questions. No one should be laughed at or judged for being curious. When students feel safe, they learn better.
That's absolutely right. Safety makes learning possible. Before we wrap up, can I ask you something personal? What made you choose this field? Why talk about something that so many people avoid?
Because I saw how silence hurts people. When I started working as a counselor, I met so many young people who were scared or confused. Not because they did something wrong, but because no one ever explained things to them properly. If we can replace silence with understanding, we can prevent fear, shame, and so many problems. That's what motivates me every day.
That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being here today. Before we finish, could you give our listeners, especially the younger ones, one piece of advice to remember?
Sure. I'd say this: respect yourself first. When you respect your body, your feelings, and your boundaries, you naturally respect others too. And remember, learning about sex, emotions, and relationships doesn't make you bad. It makes you wise and responsible.
That's such a beautiful message to end on. Thank you again for being here and for helping us understand this topic with so much kindness and clarity. And to everyone listening, remember, learning about real-life topics like this helps you grow, not just in knowledge, but in confidence and communication too. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. Practice repeating some of the sentences for your English fluency, and join us again next week for another meaningful conversation on KnowledgeCast English. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and take care of yourself.